Hi, this is Mr. Malay, and here's your video review for your quiz sometime next week in AP US History. This is the quiz over World War I. You need to be able to tell me how the alliance system led to World War I. That was where the alliances of different countries, the Central Alliance and the Triple Entente, got together and created a world war. Because of the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. You need to know why the United States was closer to the Allies instead of the Central Powers. The Schlieffen Plan. Remember the plan that the Germans came up with so they wouldn't have to fight a two-front war? They're going to attack to the north through Belgium instead of going to France's front lines and sweep around. And it almost worked, but it was stopped at the Marne River with the miracle of the Marne. Read up on that section about the trenches so you can answer questions. What was life in the trenches like? What troubles might the soldiers face? Two German-sounding words. You know, German-sounding words were changed during the war. Hamburger being changed to Liberty Steak and Liberty Pop instead of Dachshund and Liberty Cabbage instead of sauerkraut. You need to know about meatless Mondays and wheatless Wednesdays and heatless Mondays and gasless Sundays and all of those things. You need to know about propaganda. That's the other essay question. You need to know what things was it trying to convince people to do, how did it do it, what were the tactics that it used. You need to know about Charles Schenck and how he was tried for encouraging people to oppose the draft and he's found guilty and served jail time, and how that was because of the Espionage and the Sedition Act, and how that worked and what happened to him. You need to be able to tell me outcomes of the United States of America in World War I. Okay? You need to know how World War I affected the United States. It made us a global power. It caused a little bit of inflation. Over 1 million people died because of different things. It made us less isolationist. There's a bunch of things you could talk about. You need to talk about what the Sedition Act did, what the Espionage Act did. The Sedition Act made it punishable. The Sedition Act made it illegal to say anything or write anything bad about the United States government. The Espionage Act made it punishable by death to aid the enemy, and it was a crime to refuse the draft. You need to know who John J. Pershing was. He was the supreme military commander for American forces during World War I. You need to know that Wilson was probably most responsible for the Treaty of Versailles, and why the Treaty of Versailles failed. It was because he refused to compromise. You need to know that Woodrow Wilson convinced the American people to enter World War I by promising it would be the war to end all wars, and that it would make other wars impossible and defend democracy. You need to know what reasons we got involved in World War I. Those reasons would be unrestricted submarine warfare, the Zimmerman Note, economic ties to allied countries, trying to make sure that their countries succeeded. All those would be good answers. You need to know, as far as matching goes, you need to be able to tell me what nationalism is, militarism is, what is ethnicity. Who was Franz Ferdinand? He was the Archduke who was assassinated to start World War I. Gabriel Princip was the guy who assassinated him. You need to know what gunboat diplomacy is. Woodrow Wilson, President of the United States during World War I. Kaiser Wilhelm, King or Emperor of Germany during World War I. You need to know what countries were in the Triple Entente, who later on became the Allies, and that was the United States, France, Russia, and later the United States. And then the Triple Alliance, who later on became the Central Powers, and that was Italy, Germany, and Austria-Hungary. And then more matching, you need to be able to tell me what was the Black Hand. That was a Serbian nationalist group. What powers did the War Industry Board have? What was an Unterseeboot or a U-boat? Who was Zimmerman and what was the Zimmerman Note? You need to be able to tell me what the Lusitania was. It was a famous ship that was sunk and it helped bring us into the war. You need to know what the Selective Service Act did. You know what Liberty Bonds were. You need to know what daylight savings time was and why it was put into existence. It was created to create. It was created to let people make better use of natural daylight and natural heat. You need to know about the flu epidemic that killed over 500,000 Americans. You need to know that Treaty of Versailles ended World War I. You need to know that the precursor to the United Nations was the League of Nations. You need to be able to tell me what happened. What happened to Woodrow Wilson so that he couldn't finish his post-war tour, so that, and you need to know why people thought that World War I was going to be the war to end all wars. And if you know all of those things, you will do great on the quiz next week.